What is going on, everyone? Griffin here, coming at you with some Switchblade gameplay, and today we're going to be talking about the current and future state of SMGs in Rogue Company. So let's head over and check it out. So in the previous update for Rogue Company, pre-Eternal Conflict update, we did get massive SMG changes to the D40C, the LMPX, and the Knight in particular. Of course, with that, we also got some shotgun changes and the revolver change, all that good stuff. But we kind of saw a little sneak peek at like the trajectory of the SMGs moving forward, and the idea that like all the SMGs were going to get touched at some point sooner rather than later. So we all knew that these changes were coming. Absolutely 110%. Anybody that is involved in the Rogue Company community whatsoever knew that the SMG changes were absolutely coming. And this is what they had to say in the most recent update for the Eternal Conflict update in Rogue Company. In this update, we are bringing the rest of the SMGs into the fold of the core identity. These changes will reflect that, along with other adjustments for individual SMGs to stand them out better from each other. Additionally, after further testing and community feedback, we are making slight adjustments to our identity criteria for SMGs to put them in a more comfortable place. This involves not so aggressively impacting bloom. We will continue to test and iterate these changes and continue to give us feedback. Some of these now have very interesting identities and playstyles, so experiment and have fun. Global changes for the SMGs in this update. They received updated descriptions to better match their unique identities. They also received a third damage fall off threshold with damage fall offs with damage reduced down from 30 to 45%. So we knew that these changes were coming. We knew that SMGs were going to get these massive changes, and they were going to feel a little bit more, they were going to feel different from one another, which is the way that they should have felt, in my opinion, anyway. But like whatever happened in the before time happened in the before time. We knew that these things were going to happen. That last update, the D40 LMPX Knight got hit. Then in this update, they went back and they reverted some of those changes slightly. Of course, they went in there and they tightened some of the hip fire. They tightened some of the bloom up. They tightened some of this up. They tightened some of that up. They made changes that were appropriate. And I didn't mind those initial SMG changes. Going across the board, fully across the board to all of the SMGs, that was something that was an inevitability, but unfortunately, since they could only tackle 3 of them, it forced everybody else to use the SLC, the 24S, and the other SMGs to kind of compensate for the things that they were going to be, for the things that they did in that update. Once all the SMG changes rolled out, now everybody, not everybody, but a large, there are individuals out there that are complaining about the current state of the SMGs, basically saying that characters that only have access to like SMGs and shotguns, like Chalk or Scourge, characters like that, are almost useless at this point because of the weapons that they have access to. And I don't fully agree with that whatsoever. I think that the SMG changes offers a new dynamic in the game. It also offers us an incredibly new learning curve. And that learning curve can be as simple or as hectic as you want that learning curve to be. If you want to learn and master all of the SMGs over again, learn how their recoil patterns work, learn how their bloom works, learn when their bloom reset works, learn trigger control, learn all of this stuff, then you can absolutely do that. Or you can focus all your time and attention on one specific SMG and just stick to that one specific SMG as it's like your pocket SMG, right? And of course, right now, there's some SMGs that outperform others, in my opinion. I think that the Knight is very powerful right now. I think that the Ejection is incredibly powerful right now. It is so good. And the SLC feels like it is the most versatile weapon out of the bunch right now. So I do feel like that there are some weapons that are outperforming some of the other weapons, but I think that there's some outlying factors that are influencing these that the community really doesn't have any control over, and it's something that the developers are going to have to discover on their own or with the help of the community. I know that the weapons, the SMGs in particular, do have like first bullet accuracy, right? So the first couple of shots that you shoot out of the SMGs whenever you're ADSing are going to like be pinpoint accurate to that dot that's in the center of your screen. Then after that, it's when the accuracy and the bloom starts to take control of the weapon. As you fire the weapon more, the accuracy starts to drop significantly, and that's where bloom starts to come in, or the illusion of bloom starts to come in, where it's not really bloom, it's more or less like you are having recoil start to kick in at that moment, but you don't really recognize the recoil of it because of the size of the crosshairs on the screen, right? So if you pay more attention to that center dot in the middle of your screen and use it as your focus point whenever you're shooting, I think that you'll be a little bit more successful whenever you are running SMGs, and I think that it'll make for a better experience overall. Do I think the SMGs are going to continue to get touched? Absolutely. I don't think that they're in a perfect state whatsoever. I think some of them appear or at least feel to be in a perfect state right now, but the ones that appear or feel to be in a perfect state are the ones that seem to be outperforming the other ones. Like to me right now, the Knight feels perfect, but it's also outperforming in my hands, at least from my experience, the LMPX, the D40, some of the other weapons. The objection is absolutely broken right now, especially when you run it on rogues like Mac, and it feels like it is completely overpowered and needs to be nerfed into the ground again, but other people might not be having the same play experience that I'm having. I can just report on the experience that I'm having with the weapons and the engagements that I've been involved with in the game, and that's kind of where I'm at with it right now. I've got to play the game more. I've got to get used to these changes more. I've got to become more of someone that practices what I preach in terms of trigger control and closing the gap and being able to utilize your environment to your advantage and also your gadgets and everything else, as opposed to being something where it's like, oh, I'm going to throw this grenade over here and hope to hit someone, but if I don't, it doesn't really matter because I have like this laser beam in my back pocket that, you know, can mop up any inconsistencies that I have in my play style. You know, I think that like with the game the way that it was before, where the game absolutely like allowed you the freedom to use these laser beam weapons with no repercussions whatsoever, it spoiled the majority of the player base. And now that things are getting tweaked and changed, there are people that are not fans of these changes that want it to go back to the way that it was before. But it can't go back to the way that it was before. If it does go back to the way that it was before, then what does that accomplish? You're going to have one SMG that everybody's going to be running. It's not going to come down to the situation. It's not going to come down to a specific play style. It's not going to come down to any of that stuff. It's going to be, this is the best, this is all everybody's running, and it's boring. It's absolutely boring. Look at the LMPX meta that we had. It was absolute, and we had tournaments and LAN events during this, and it was the most boring thing to watch in the world. You've got 4 people with LMPXs versus 4 people with LMPXs. What's going to happen? And it's like, well, usually whoever does something stupid and gets called out is going to get burnt down by 4 LMPX shots from various locations that are going to be pinpoint accurate, and they're going to do the most damage in the game right now, and it's going to be nasty. They're going to be dead before they even go down. Like, that's how bad, you know, and I don't, metas in games are inevitable. I will say that. That is an absolute truth. It's like death, taxes, and video game metas are always going to happen. There wasn't a particular meta before weapon mastery happened, but weapon mastery happened and it opened the floodgates to this whole meta identity. And we've gone through so many ebbs and flows with the different various metas in the game. And it is what it is. They opened the floodgate for that to happen. And by doing so, the people before didn't take the time to actually go in there and basically draw a line in the sand and say, hey, this is where the weapons need to be. They need to feel different. You know, each weapon class needs to feel different. The weapons inside of it, they need to perform differently. They need to offer different pros and cons whenever using them. They need to be more player specific, right? People need to go in there and experiment with these weapons and kind of feel, hey, what feels better in this situation? You're playing a long range map, but you don't have a character that has a long range weapon. Then what are you going to use? If you're going to be playing up close, or if you're going to be flanking, or if you're going to be playing very ratty, whatever, there's a weapon now that kind of fits that play style, in my opinion. And that's just how it feels. And that's how it should have felt the entire time. And I think that like moving forward, the SMGs are just going to continue to evolve and get better. I think that the identities for the SMGs have been firmly established as of right now. And I feel like they could absolutely be expanded on in a very, very large way. And I'm not sure what that could mean. I'm not sure if that's something that's even doable, but I do feel like that it can be expanded on. Now you can see, okay, what SMG do we not have? What SMG could be added into the game to kind of fill a gap or fill a niche that needs to be filled? See, this is where you get the new weapons being introduced. And of course, like, everything's going to get touched at one point. Whether it receives a small change or a massive change, everything's going to get looked at and everything's going to get touched at some point. And the SMGs don't feel great right now whenever you have people running assault rifles and burning people down at close and long range, or DMRs, or shotguns, or some of the pistols even. They don't feel good. But have we got all the changes? No. We've got, what, actually two assault rifle changes, right? The Sahara, I mean, I guess you could consider that a change, but like, it's just consistency thing that happened. We got the HRM that got touched, but nothing else got touched out of the assault rifles that I'm aware of. We got two shotgun changes. We still have two more shotguns that need to be adjusted. We've got two pistols that need to be adjusted. We've got all of the DMRs that need to be adjusted. We've got sniper rifles that need to be adjusted. We've got melee weapons that need to be adjusted. We've got perks that need to be, like, everything's going to get its day in the sun at some point, and everything's going to be evaluated, and everything is going to be adjusted. And yes, in the grand scheme of things, the SMGs are nowhere near as bad as people want to imagine and want to blow up out there. I think that if you get used to the SMGs now, whenever those changes inevitably come into the game for the other weapon classes, then those people that primarily run those specific weapon classes are going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage, right? So if you are going to go in there and refuse to run SMGs until some astronomical change happens, then if the ARs get hit and that's all you've been running, then you're in the same boat that you were before. You could learn the weapons, adapt, and become proficient with those weapons now, and that flows on and on and on throughout the rest of the game until other massive crazy changes come in. It's kind of very polarizing how community has this knee-jerk reaction to, like, I'm not going to do this anymore because this. And it's like, okay, but this is going to get changed too. Yeah, but it's not changed right now. So, and I can't win a gunfight unless I have a weapon that is pinpoint accurate, that has no recoil, that has all the range in the game. Like, it's amazing. But right now, I think the SMGs are in a good spot. I do think that they will continue to get touched a little bit. I think that the massive amount of the changes have already happened. And I think all in all, they'll be in a better spot at the end of the day. Once everything gets looked at and everything gets adjusted, I think that the SMGs are going to be like they were before, very dominant on the battlefield, because it is a third-person shooter. Because range and distance is very different in a third-person shooter as opposed to a first-person shooter. So they're still going to be lethal. They're still going to be good. You're just going to have to play smarter. You're going to have to think smarter. You're going to have to do smarter. Maybe try that. Maybe not rely on something that does everything for you, and just kind of like adapt to it and become better with it. But be sure to let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you feel like the SMGs are in a good spot? Do you feel like they need to be changed more? Are you refusing to use the SMG changes? And if you are, please give me a valid explanation as to why. I don't want to hear, well, because they suck now. Okay, well, that's an opinion. That's not a reason, first of all. Second of all, like, give me a legitimate reason as to why. I'm genuinely curious. Why do you not run SMGs anymore if you don't run them? Be sure to let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to check that description for links to Facebook, Discord, and Twitter. Those are the places to contact me. If you haven't already, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you've already subscribed to the channel, then consider hitting that join button to become one of the 256 crew members. Lastly, on Thursdays from 8 until 11 p.m. Central Time, Sundays from 10 a.m. until we get tired, I will be streaming here on YouTube. So if you're interested and available, please feel free to stop by and say hello there. Thanks for watching, guys.
The very first Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I figured it. I figured it's because I saw where it got like really bad reviews. People were like shitting on it, but I feel like it's because even though it's the third film, it's also a stepping stone movie. And I'm like, I could see where that might be a thing.
It's like I was telling these guys earlier, they do a lot of building. They should have gave it the runtime that Black Panther had.
Ooh, what was the runtime on it?
205.
Yeah, Wakanda Forever. Yeah, listen, yeah.
I'm gonna rotate.
I saw a comment about Black Panther 2 where someone was like they basically said Namor was a better Black Adam than Black.
I mean, not wrong.
Yeah, I would argue that Namor was probably the best Marvel villain we've had in a hot minute.
Who the hell is on the point?
That's what I'm wondering. I don't see nobody. Oh, she was right here.
Oh, I'm getting shot from that far door. That left door. I'm hacking.
Yeah, over here.
Hill controlled. Objective secured. I never doubted you for a second.